It's an organization of major superiors, so the heads of religious communities, congregations or provinces are major superiors. We've been around since 1992, but the origins of CMSWR really go back a little bit earlier to the late 1960s and early 1970s. So a time of renewal in religious life in the church. The major superiors are the members, so there's 116 communities whose superiors are members of CMSWR.
For a lot of people, they see religious life, they think it's really interesting, they don't even know how it starts and how to get into it. Can you give us a short summary of when a woman, let's say I'm interested in religious life, what would it look like if I came to you and said, I want to explore that?
Well, first we typically send them, most communities have a vocation director, so there's a sister who would be responsible for helping young women discern a vocation to religious life, and then specifically to that particular community. And different communities do that a little bit differently from each other, but the typical thing would be a conversation with the vocation director, opportunities to come and experience the community, perhaps to spend a little time with the community.
Some people call those come and sees, right?
So many communities do have come and see experiences where it's a few days of kind of living the life of the community. And often there'll be a group that come together at the same time. So there'll be a vocation retreat or a come and see experience that has 10 or 20, in some cases many more, who come. You will spend a few days of combination of having a speaker, a retreat, but largely it's to see and experience a little bit of the life, to see what it's like to live religious life, and particularly as it's lived in a particular community. Again, the Carmelites don't do things exactly the way the Dominicans do, the Franciscans, so everybody's got their own unique way of doing different things. And there's different charisms, they're gifts to the church, and people are called to different communities.
Who's got the best habit?
Well, I'm a little biased. I think I love our habit. The Dominican habit has been around pretty much unchanged for 800 years, a little over 800 years now. For both the men and the women, we look pretty distinctive, so I think it's a beautiful habit. But I have to admit, I think the habit of the Sisters of Life is beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
So the blue and white really is beautiful. The style is very much like ours, but they have the addition of the blue for Our Lady. So it really is a very attractive looking habit.
It's funny because for your community and for your predecessor as executive director of CMSWR, you have a lot of PhDs, you have a lot of women who have pretty impressive credentials. What does that look like? Is that something where people are walking in with those degrees, or they're discovering that or given the opportunity to do that throughout religious life as well?
It could be any of those. So some come in highly educated, may have PhDs or other professional degrees, and sometimes the community, because of a particular need that the community sees and particular gifts of a sister, will send them for further study. And some communities do that more than others, depending on what their particular apostolate is. It's different. You need different credentials depending on what you're going to do. So if you're running a college, you need a certain number of sisters who have doctorates.
Right.
Or you mentioned the Sisters of Mercy. They have many MD doctors.
Yes.
So they, as well as theologians. So they educate their sisters to serve in those professions.
Right.
But I think maybe an important part to keep in mind, they're trained for those things in order to serve. It's not an end in itself to get a doctorate or a medical degree or something like that.
It has a purpose for the life of the community.
Yeah. And it benefits the community, it benefits those we serve.
That's beautiful.
So not to lose that dimension of it.
Are you watching the Holy Spirit move in different ways based on the needs that our society has?
The Holy Spirit never ceases to amaze me. So yes, I believe the Holy Spirit is much at work, and our sisters, other sisters, are trying to respond to that, with whether it's a different kind of work or whatever, to respond to the needs that are out there.
I know there are a lot of people who wish there were more teaching sisters.
There were, yeah.
And so people are praying for that for sure. Is there something that you guys are working on right now that's very exciting?
Well, we have several. So those would all be approved by our board of directors. One of the new programs for us will be, we're actually going to begin next year or so, a program for young sisters. Particularly, we're going to gear it toward those who have been recently finally professed. So they made their final profession within the last few years. And the idea is largely just to bring together young sisters. My experience, having watched, sometimes they come to the CMSWR meetings, and they help with things like liturgy and music and that way. But it's always such a good experience for them to meet each other, because what that does is it exposes them to different communities and different charisms, and it creates a greater appreciation for different communities. So they see, oh, Dominicans are not the same as Franciscans, are not the same as
Carmelites,
the Lovers of the Holy Cross or the Carmelites. And at the same time, it often gives them a greater appreciation of their own charism.
Yes.
So like, oh, I really like those Franciscans, I like those Carmelites, but I'm glad I'm a Dominican, or whatever the community is.
It affirms.
So it's just a good experience. My community and some of our communities are blessed with a lot of vocations. Some of our communities aren't. They have fewer vocations. So there may be a young sister who's, there's only 2 or 3 in formation. So it gives that will give those sisters an opportunity to meet other young sisters, to be a mutual support to each other and to appreciate each other.
Do you love what you do?
Absolutely. I really do. I love what I do. It's such a privilege to work with so many wonderful women religious.
And has your vocation deepened your relationship with Christ?
Absolutely. And really, that's the point of a vocation. I mean, much of it is service to others, but it also it draws us closer to the Lord. So yes, it has deepened my vocation.
The future of religious life really relies on women coming together and thinking about what the Lord is calling us to do. So I want to thank you for what you're doing and for being here with us today.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be with you.